Well, that is certainly a busy Tuesday in the middle of the NFL season, especially if you are a Baltimore Ravens fan or just a fan of the AFC North. What a wild 30 minutes, 35 minutes. If you missed it, Joe Flacco traded to the Bengals for a 6th-round pick. CJ Gardner-Johnson, former Super Bowl champion, the safety, is signing with the Baltimore Ravens to their practice squad. A lot to talk about, to go through. So thanks for joining us. I'm Zach Bollinger, co-host of the Ryan Ripken Show. Ryan Ripken will be joining me in just a few minutes to react about this, but we had to go live, a little impromptu, because when something like this happens, we want to talk about it. So let's start with the first one. The one that kind of shook Ravens fans to the core a little bit, especially myself. And I'm going to be honest, is this a big, oh man, Bengals, they're back, this is awesome, Super Bowl, this is, they're back to it. I don't know. We'll see what Joe does. But Joe Flacco is heading to another AFC North rival, stays in the division, and in all honesty, he is a massive upgrade over Jake Browning. I think this makes the Bengals offense, once again, with the weapons they have. You talk about, obviously, Jamar Chase. It starts with Jamar. Let's be honest. It all starts with Jamar Chase. But then you have T. Higgins. You have Chase Brown. No offense. Like, they've got guys. They have players. And this offense, the questions around the Cincinnati Bengals in the offseason in the beginning of this year before Joe Burrow went down, it was never about the offense. It was always about the defense. They go out there, and honestly, last game, I thought the Bengals defense played very well against the Browns, but the offense couldn't do anything. Jake Browning struggled. It seems like they weren't confident in their offense. Zach Taylor, through the past few weeks, has kind of talked about, hey, we're sticking with Jake Browning. We're sticking with Jake Browning. He's the guy. Then after this last week, he goes out and he kind of hints. He was like, we're gonna look at everything. We're going to look at everything. And they go from there. They end up today trading for Joe Flacco, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, and now, unfortunately, AFC North journeyman, Joe Flacco. I will say, from a personal standpoint, from a fan standpoint, as a Ravens fan specifically, this sucks. This sucks. Why? This is my childhood hero. Like, we can take all of the, how I think he's going to help the Bengals now weather this storm. I think they're going to be in it. I think Joe can keep them afloat. He can win them ball games. All that aside, just from the human aspect, Joe Flacco now on his 3rd AFC North team. He adds to the journeyman. And I know the Bengals offensive line, it's not great. No, the Bengals offensive line, I'm not saying Joe Flacco's turning them into Super Bowl contenders, but what I think this does is Joe Flacco's a dang good quarterback still. We watched Joe Flacco go out and beat the Packers. Now you can talk about it. Yeah. Their defense, that Browns defense. But I'll tell you one thing, this offense looks a whole lot better in Cincinnati than it does in Cleveland. And say what you want about Joe Flacco, all of that, how he hasn't, he's not Joe Cool anymore, all that. This man can still throw the rock. And I put a tweet out there earlier. It is going to be so annoying to watch Joe Flacco on Thanksgiving throw deep balls to Jamar Chase. I mean, this not as another more personal thing, as a Jamar Chase fantasy owner, this is massive news. We're back. We are all the way back as a Jamar Chase fantasy owner, because Joe Flacco, that deep ball is going to be hitting to Jamar. That deep ball is back to Jamar. You thought it was good. We saw a little glimpse of it again with Jake Browning at the end. We're back. We are all the way back. I'm very happy for Jamar Chase fantasy owners, but I'm gonna say it again, and I'm gonna real quick pull up the Bengals schedule. So the Bengals at Packers. Let's be honest. I think that's a tough one. I think this is very much a short week, everything. Packers, big time favorites. I think it's going to be hard for the Bengals to go into Lambeau and beat them, but we've seen Joe Flacco already beat the Packers this year on the Browns. Steelers Thursday night in Cincinnati against the Steelers. I think this one's up in the air. I think, the Steelers haven't been impressive. I think the Bengals, this is going to be a close game. Thursday night, short rest. I think they can win that game. Then they face the Jets at home. They face the Bears at home. Those are two games that they can now very much win. Steelers away, it probably goes to the Steelers. I just assume every AFC North team, whether it's the Ravens, it's the Steelers, or the Bengals, when they play the Steelers or when they play each other, I just assume they split. I just assume the season series gets split 1-1. So we'll give them each one win there. But they have the Patriots at home. That looks to be, could be a good game with Joe Flacco. Then obviously if the Ravens on Thanksgiving in Baltimore, we'll see if Lamar Jackson's back for that. Then you have at Buffalo. So that's kind of a tough one. Then the Ravens in Cincinnati. Hey, whether Lamar's there or not, maybe they're able to pull out one of those wins. Then you have Miami, you have the Cardinals, you have the Browns to end out the season. But at that point, hopefully, if you're a Bengals fan, Joe Burrow is back. But I think they can float. They can stay afloat with Joe Flacco. So that's really the big first news. And if we're ready, thumbs up if you're ready to. Yep, I'll take that as this. And no, I do not think Flacco plays this week, Christian. But to talk more about this, we have the host of the Ryan Ripken Show. We have Ryan Ripken. Ryan, AFC North journeyman, Joe Flacco. That's where we're at right now. Flacco traded to the Browns for a 6th-round pick. I already talked about it. I think I've gone both ways. I said I think if you're a Bengals fan, this keeps you afloat. This is very much, I think, Joe Flacco with that offense now makes it more dangerous again. Also put out there, massive for Jamar Chase fantasy owners like myself. I think we're back. Remember last year with Tyreek Hill when Tua came back, he's like, strike the band up. We're back, baby. Like, that's how I'm feeling with that. But then there's also the personal aspect for us in Baltimore where it's like, oh, Joe Flacco's playing for the Bengals now too. That's so Ryan, what are your thoughts on today so far?
Yeah, well, of course it's the NFL season, maybe just because I'm always in baseball and all the work that I have to prepare for the season, I forget like there's moments like this that happen in the NFL season where you're like, we're at this point now where teams are having that little bit of panic, a little bit of stress, and you feel like your season's kind of teetering. So for the Bengals, they had 2 games where they were not competitive with Jake Browning. And then they were very competitive against the Lions, their defense, but then Jake Browning was throwing some moon balls early, and then down the stretch, he found Chase for 2 touchdowns. But, yeah, I mean, first thing I'm thinking about, there's got to be a tour name for Joe Flacco, and it can't just be the AFC North tour. Like, that's the simple thing to say. But does Joe still have some arm talent? Yes. Could he get the football to T. Higgins more? Not even Jamar Chase, but to T. Higgins, who has been non-existent, I think, yes. But the one thing that I've actually taken a step back of we might see Joe Flacco in Baltimore on Thanksgiving and how weird it is that Joe is jumping from one AFC North rival to another. But realistically on a football side, is the Bengals offensive line going to be enough for Joe Flacco if he's named the starter. Like, I was thinking about that more and more because Jake Browning, while he didn't make the best decisions, is way more agile and mobile than Joe. So, and in the game against the Lions, he did make plays with his legs. You're not going to see that with Joe. So that's just my only little reservation here is Joe going to have enough time, or is it going to be like it was a Brown situation where if they got to Joe, like he just threw it up or he went down?
Yeah.
So I'm really curious because it wasn't that Joe was going out there and lighting it up for Cleveland.
Mhm.
They didn't have the weapons.
Yeah.
So that's like my big storyline to watch with it, Zach. But clearly also they have reservations with Joe Burrow. Like I think that Joe Burrow's injury is probably a lot worse timeline-wise than is being led on.
With that part, I'm kind of going back and forth because at first I was like, okay, is this definitely them saying Flacco's our guy for the season? But then I also thought, do they think Burrow could be back in time now for some bigger games? And they're like, hey, we can't risk that Browning, goes out there and can't produce, can't win us games to keep us afloat. It's going to be interesting there. Yeah. With the offensive line, I think it's definitely an issue. I think it's the same thing you could talk about with the Ravens right now. Like, is Cooper Rush that bad or was the O-line that poor? I think the biggest thing for me is there is absolutely no fear in Joe Flacco. And I think the upgrade, at least in my eyes, is the veteran presence and ability to identify the defense. Nothing he sees in the NFL is ever going to surprise him. I think it's just that experience coming into the building, knowing that he can be the guy. And, yes, he's almost 40 years old, all of that. I mean, it's crazy to me, Ryan, if you would have told me in 2015 that in 10 years, a team is trading for Joe Flacco midseason to be their starting quarterback, is giving up assets for Joe Flacco. I don't know if I'd think that was true. But here we are. And I think the reason for that is because not only the veteran presence, but I think, like you alluded to, that arm talent is still there. Now we're going to have to see if he gets the time to show off the arm talent. But overall, I think with the offensive weapons around him, I think they will be able to scheme up enough. I think he is going to be able to hit Jamar Chase on a few more of these balls where he is open, and Jake Browning, yes, didn't have the time. But I also just think Jake Browning, he's still, he's started, I think, what is his record as a starter? I mean, he hasn't played in as many games. Obviously, he's played 16 games in his career. So I just think the veteran aspect of Joe Flacco is going to help that offense. And I also just think Joe's one of those guys, we've seen it everywhere he goes. He's going to pick a wide receiver or two, and he's going to be like, that's my guy. And he has no issue, especially if it's Jamar or T. Higgins, being like, hey, I'm okay. I know I have the arm talent. One-on-one deep ball, I will, we saw so many times underthrown deep balls on Sunday, killed Jake Browning and the Bengals, where they had Jamar maybe one-on-one, underthrows, intercepted. Just bad decision-making. I don't think you see that as much from Joe, the panic and stuff. And if Jamar's one-on-one, if T's one-on-one going deep, I trust Joe Flacco to hit him.
This was the big reason right here of why they make this move, because I love Joe. I'm just not convinced with that Bengals O-line that, like, is he the full answer? But why they're looking for a new answer, it's this number right here, Zach. We pull this up. You just referenced it.
Yeah.
Those are the numbers for Jake Browning. And even though they won that Jaguars game, go look at the interception column here.
Yeah.
He's got 8 picks in 4 games.
Can't turn the ball over.
The only game it was clean was the game that was the most uncompetitive of them all. Well, I lied. The Vikings game was brutal, but at least they moved the football in that game at times. The Broncos game, they couldn't do anything. Like, they could not throw the ball. They could not protect him. It was absolutely brutal. And then the Detroit Lions game, if you watched it, the interceptions are the reason why this game got so lopsided. And then, like, the Bengals kind of fought back, but the defense played well. But that's why Joe Flacco's coming in, which, I know the other names that could have been out there, Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, Giants. Those are teams that have some quarterbacks to give. And the Browns obviously are going to elevate Shedeur Sanders, you would think. I don't know why he wouldn't be at this point the second quarterback. But the big reason is, I think with Russell and Jameis, you wonder, were they more worried about the turnover proneness of Russ and Jameis, which Jameis death taxes, and he's going to throw a ball to the other team.
Yeah.
So I think that is the biggest reason, though, is that Jake Browning had been throwing them out of games. And that's why they felt like they had to make a move, because, Zach, with the Ravens are where they are right now, that is why the Bengals feel like they can still be in it. They're 2-3. They're going to be able to sit there and try to dissect what they can do over the next, course of games, where they have the Packers, the Steelers, the Jets, the Bears. You split those games, this division's wide open. I know Pittsburgh, to me, they should be the favorite and not the Ravens. No offense. They just record-wise.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why this trade is made. It's because if Browning had gone out and played adequate ball the last couple of weeks, I don't think that they make this move at all. But it's because of the turnovers. There's so many questions, because here's the reality that no one in Baltimore wants to consider, is that the Bengals still are the most dangerous team, not saying the best team, but they are still the most dangerous team because their offense can put up points quick. And their defense actually had that pulse, in the last couple of weeks. It's not the same defense it was last year. So it's a big thing right there. And, obviously we got to get to the second part of the news, Zach, where the Ravens then made a move, which that might be – in a bigger move in the I don't even know if it's a big move, not anymore, just because the Ravens need a lot more than just adding another player. But in this case, you just posted, Zach, Adam Schefter reported that Gardner-Johnson, CJ Gardner-Johnson, signing with the Ravens practice squad. And if people were wondering, he was on the Texans, and it was a very strange exit.
Yeah.
It was, no one really commented on it. And you would think from the talent alone, he's not getting cut because of the quote unquote talent. He's been an impactful player where he's gone, but he's in Baltimore now, Zach, and gotta say, they kind of need it, with given all the injuries and the young players that whether it's the injuries, the young players, the scheme fit, they need some more guys in Baltimore to make an impact on that side.
Yeah, and Ryan, I'm going to be very honest with you. A lot of people, and kind of this was floated out there after he was first released by the Texans, because maybe there were some issues with some teammates. And listen, CJ Gardner-Johnson is who he is. He is going to get in your face. He's not afraid of a 15-yard penalty. We saw he and Baker Mayfield just a few weeks ago going at it right after the play. He's a guy, if you offer all 53 men versus him in a fight, he would take you up on it. That's the mentality that I think that, this is a risk. This is a guy, the talent is not a question. He has been a talented player. Hell, he was one of the reasons that the Eagles, he went to the Lions 2 years ago, came back to the Eagles. It was a part of their defense when they went on very dominant defense to go win the Super Bowl. I think that not only is the skill here big, but it's an attitude thing. The Ravens got punched in the mouth by the Texans. They got punched in the mouth, and he comes out, they come out there and they're like, man, there was some uncompetitive football. There was some times where it feels like guys quit. I'll tell you one thing. It doesn't matter what the score is. CJ Gardner-Johnson is going to get in guys' faces. He's going to fight. Everyone's talking about it. Jair Alexander. It was after the play, but holy crap, it seemed like at some point he was the only guy who was caring. I think this is not only, they have to do some work. I've seen people talk about, can he block? Oh, can he rush the passer? No, but this is another dude in there that I think is going to be an impact not only on the field, but all, kind of with his play, but also that mentality of we will go and we are going to fight every single play. I'm going to give 1,000,000% to do what I can do every single play. He's not afraid to, put his nose in there in a run play if he has to go make a play. I really like this move, and it's low risk. You see that second part that Adam Schefter put out there. He's still fully guaranteed by his Texans contract. I think there's almost no risk in this. It's one of those things. There's no financial risk. He comes in here, he does his thing. I'm sure he'll be elevated in a week or two. But for a defense that is dead last in so many categories, why not? Why not? I think that's the biggest thing is, Ryan, what did Marvin Lewis tell us about? He said, when you're losing, no one understands that every rock, you turn every rock, every stone. You got to find something. And right now, this tells me the Ravens, they talked about urgency in the press conference, Harbaugh did. This is telling me they're urgent. They're saying, we got to get guys. We got to get guys in here who can see if they can make a difference.
You know what? That's a great part with Marvin. And I'm actually trying to pull that up so we can maybe pull that clip. Let me see if I can find that, Zach, with Marvin Lewis. When did we talk to him? Back in week 2. So if you're new to the channel, by the way, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We're usually live on Mondays, Thursdays, and Sundays right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook. We are based out of Maryland, but we talk our 2 sports, baseball, and baseball's coming to an end, and football. So we're here rocking and rolling. We have great guests. If you want to be a channel member and be a part of some other stories. So by the way, for Ravens fans, got to sit down with Michael Brockers, former almost Raven, by the way, Zach, but former Ram, former Lion, as the Ravens get ready for the Rams on Sunday. I'm going to release that to our channel members there, the Rips Better kids. So, because we talked about defensive line play, and he also told an unbelievable story of just about how good Aaron Donald is. And I'm just going to say it's not just for what he did on the field. It was everything that he did. But for Marvin Lewis, though, old Ravens defensive coordinator and Bengals head coach, we talked to him about, the battles and the grind of what you had to deal with. Here, I think I found it, Zach. So here is Marvin Lewis was talking about that grind on defense when things aren't going right. And Zach, you mentioned a stone unturned. Well, this is what you were referencing just a second. So here is former Cincinnati Bengals head coach and Ravens defensive coordinator Marvin Lewis.
Defense coach, they are trying to find an identity. And you mentioned about parts coming in. In your opinion, what's the hardest thing for a team when you're trying to figure out what makes you work? Because it's not as simple as saying, hey, we have talent at every level. It's going to work out. There's so much that goes into it. Could you just try to explain a little bit of those intricacies of trying to figure things out when you feel like your performances should be better?
Well, you really do. You're as a coach, you turn over every rock, every stone. And early in my coaching career, I was coaching at the University of New Mexico, and the basketball coach, Gary Colson, he'd had some experience, to say the least. And Gary came in the coach's dressing room one day, and he says, when you're struggling to win a game, people on the outside don't understand this, but you're doing your best coaching because you are turning every rock, every stone in order to figure out a way to come out and be 1 point ahead. And that's the truth of the matter.
So right there, Marvin's talking about this whole situation, right, Zach? And and so look, people can say, well, you got to be kidding me. That was what you put on the field? Like, that was you turning over every rock and stone when you got your ass kicked in Baltimore? No, obviously that it wasn't good enough. But the point being is you are at a point and you have to continue to try to find ways. So for the Ravens, though, the urgency, as we just mentioned, or you mentioned earlier in the stream, if you guys are just tuning in, the Bengals have the urgency that they need another quarterback. So they go get a guy. The Ravens realized their depth with these young players. That was the other part, Zach. It's a lot of young players on the defensive side. Rookies playing, guys that are not used to being out there consistently. And there is, especially for those young players, and the reason why I emphasize on like rookies and the young players is your first NFL games are going against some of the best teams in the league. The Texans haven't played well this year offensively, and that's a whole different subject. But are they a playoff caliber team? Yes. Were the Lions a playoff Super Bowl team? Yes. The Bills, the Chiefs. So your first games in the NFL, now you're being counted upon against some really solid teams. You can get exposed, and the Ravens have gotten exposed. So I think the Gardner-Johnson move, Zach, is not only the fact that they realize, hey, we have the urgency, we need more guys, but also you need a little bit more. I'm not going to say the word leadership there because obviously it could be for the whole team, but you need a little bit more of a veteran presence for a team that seems to be lacking that. You're down Roquan Smith in the middle of the field. You're down Matt Abike, who is your anchor at the defensive line. And then no Kyle Hamilton. And then so you're relying on a second-year Nate Wiggins, talented player, but second-year player, a banged-up Jair Alexander. And now you had a bunch of other rookies stepping in to try to make up. And I think that is a big part. So people get mad at Harbaugh for saying that. And you know what? He's got to fix it. He has to find a way, whether it's with Zach Orr, and they have to devise a good game plan because no one wants to hear excuses. They don't. But that's just the reality of what we have seen with young players in the league. But for Baltimore, they can't afford it, Zach.
No.
They can't afford to wait too much longer. So they went and got a good player, which that's what C.J. Gardner-Johnson is. He is a good player. You just got to hope the fit is right.
Yeah, and people can talk about, well, okay, this is a little late. You're already 1-4. The Ravens tried to sign Eric Hendricks to the practice squad last week, and Eric Hendricks declined. I'm wondering if they try to revisit that, and continue to build on that and maybe get another veteran in there, offer him something more, but he did not want to be on the practice squad. C.J. Gardner-Johnson obviously was okay with starting there. Also, just a quick note, apparently the Bengals are expecting Flacco to start Sunday. So they're saying they said he's a quick learner. So Flacco.
So you know what? He has a chance to beat the Packers twice.
Just unbelievable. Only Flacco, baby. But
Flacco.
Joe cool. But back to the, CJ Gardner-Johnson, the Ravens real fast. I do think that this is they are lacking veterans, and they are lacking veterans in that leadership role with, like you said, guys being out. But also, you kind of need that edge. And I think CJ adds that. I think he is one of those guys where he's probably not the best safety in the league anymore. But I do think he's got that attitude that this defense kind of misses. This I will fight anyone. I'll get in anyone's face.
That toughness.
Yeah, and I know
that toughness get in your face mentality.
And I know it didn't work out for him because the Ravens obviously lose in 2023 to the Chiefs. But there's that famous clip beforehand. You want to talk about having attitude and stuff. Do you remember Arthur Millette? That video before the game, Arthur Millette is literally on the Chiefs sideline trying to fight everyone. Like that is the mentality I think this defense needs, that, we're not going to be soft. We're going to get in your face. We're going to hit somebody. And, hey, maybe it's a veteran coming in. Maybe he lets these rookies out of their shell a little bit, gives them that, hey, we're flying around. So I just genuinely think this falls under the category of no stone left unturned, and let's go from there.
Yeah, and the other part too here is just thinking about it. What is the one phrase or one word that people have viewed the Ravens defense as? It's one word, four letters.
Soft,
right? That people they don't have that fear, and they don't feel that this defense is something that they think is going to put it to them. And that's crazy to think in a small amount of time. So here you go. Yeah. Brooks, that's not the four-letter word beginning with an F. Yep. Oh, soft. That's right. And Brooks, appreciate you, man. Good seeing you. How we doing? If anyone else is just tuning in, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We're live Mondays, Thursdays, Sundays. But for breaking news, we come on here and talk a little bit about what's going on. And for our channel members, we're going to get those Rip After Dark and those special videos that I talked about. Still have to release the full interview with Joe Thomas. Just released, because we do baseball here, baseball, football. Chipper Jones interview just got released this week. We'll have a different day to talk more about playoff baseball here, Zach. The wheel was run to perfection.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Phillies fans are pissed. But why don't we talk about this AFC North now with all these moves, right? Because I think I see Bengals fans in here. I see people saying that Joe's not going to survive going to Cincy with that offensive line. And they're going against the Packers defensive line that is very good and that is going to cause a lot of issues here. So that should be a good matchup. But overall right now, this AFC North, where we're at right now, Pittsburgh is obviously sitting at the top of the division. And now Pittsburgh's wins are against the Jets. They got beat pretty badly at home to the Seahawks. They beat the Vikings. And they beat a Patriots team that, hey, they had a great win, staple win, or maybe a signature win on the road in Buffalo. But the Patriots have, I love Drake May, what he could be, Zach.
Yeah.
The Pats have won some ugly games. Like, it's been ugly. They survived beating the Dolphins, so the Steelers haven't necessarily beaten one of those top echelon teams. And they are going to have to play the rest of that schedule, the Packers, the Lions. If we go through that schedule here, let me pull that up. Because this is why I believe the urgency is so high for Cincy, is that they do believe that the Steelers, although they are, in my mind, a very well-run organization, even with everything, how you feel like they don't beat themselves too often. Oh, gosh. Can you still see me, Zach? Am I still there?
Yep, you're still there.
Okay. Come on, bring it on back. Here we go. So this is what, like, the next couple weeks are very interesting because Pittsburgh plays Cleveland this week, okay? Then they play Cincy on Thursday night, and then they got to play the Packers, the 4-1 Colts. Then they got to play at the Chargers, got to play the Bengals again, and then the Bills, the Ravens twice, the Browns again, and the Detroit Lions. So, Zach, when you're looking at this, that's why the Bengals are sitting here going, wait a minute, we beat the Jaguars, who actually seem like a solid team right now. We got to play the Packers, which tall task, but then schedule for them gets a little bit lighter. Not saying no game's easy in the NFL, but this is the urgency here for Cincinnati. And for Baltimore, when you're hearing that, look, 1-5 is a realistic possibility with the Rams coming to town, a pissed off Rams team, Zach, because they just lost at home to the 49ers in overtime. But with that being said, if they get healthy enough and they get that edge back, especially on the defensive side, Zach, 10 wins could very well win the North. 9 wins might do it. So it's they are going to have a legit shot. The Ravens, the Bengals, the Steelers, and I'm not even going to count the Browns right now. The Browns defense is solid. And even if they don't, Zach, they're going to be a pain in the ass to play, which the Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers are still going to have to face down the stretch here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, that Browns team, we'll see what happens with Dylan Gabriel. Looked decent in his first game, obviously, over in London. It's hard to judge off of all of that. Then you do have Shedeur in the wings. We'll see what happens there. But that defense is Super Bowl caliber. That is a Super Bowl caliber defense as well, the best, if not the best units in all of football. And man, it does feel like the AFC North, they are not the big bad AFC North of old. Hell, 9-7 might get you in that thing, get you in the dance for that. But it's just filled with a lot of scrappy teams. I think this is one of those divisions, especially because of how beat up they are. Every single team is going to be a pain in the ass to the other ones. The Ravens still have 5 games against the North, 2 with the Bengals, 2 with the Steelers, 1 with the Browns. And it's going to be at the point where they need to take care of business. But that's also on the Bengals to take care of business. It's also on the Steelers to take care of business. And I think that's why, even though I disagree with it, the Ravens are still in sportsbooks favored to win the North, because I don't think anything is set in stone. I don't think you can look at any of the teams in the North right now and go, that's the best team, especially with injuries. I think you could, when everyone was healthy, I think you looked and you said, okay, it's Ravens and Bengals and then the rest. I think that was, but now with injuries, you look around and it's almost like, who gets players back in time? Can the Steelers keep this going? Can the Browns find a way to sneak in with that defense? Every team has question marks, and every team has reasons that you look at them and go, they could sneakily win this. And, I think the Browns the least because of the quarterback, I don't want to say controversy, but just that quarterback situation that's going on there. But man,
there's a lot of drama around Cleveland that doesn't have to do with just the on-field performance. And that's, for whatever the reasons where people are on that side, it's just there are a lot of talking points around the team besides just what's going on the field. And it's not just about this season. We're looking at what's happened over the years past. But, Zach, this is what you talked about, the Ravens being favored, and our friends up at Hollywood Casino Charlestown races. And
West Virginia. Boom, nailed it. Perfect.
Boom, nailed it. But the ESPN bet lines right here, Zach, at the moment, the Ravens are still the betting favorite. They're even. Steelers are right behind them. Bengals at plus 1,400. Think about that. Plus 1,400. And then there's Cleveland at plus 2,000. So Vegas is clearly saying they got faith in the Ravens. And look, you got to go out and win the games, and that's what the Pittsburgh has the advantage too. In Baltimore, for as many people want to get upset, I do think that every loss that the Ravens have had this year so far, Zach, I do see each of those teams getting in the postseason. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Lions, and the Texans. I just think that they are playoff teams. So you lost to 4 playoff teams, and now down the stretch, you are going to be favored in every game except maybe going to Green Bay. Granted, Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson is healthy, you will be favored in every game down the stretch, minus maybe going to Green Bay. That's just how favorable it can become for Baltimore here. But if you're just tuning in, 2 new moves. Joe Flacco is joining yet another AFC North team.
Yeah.
He's going to the Bengals. And the plan is, Zach, right, that he is going to start this Sunday against the Green Bay Packers, trying to go 2-0 against the Packers on the year.
Yeah.
And then the Ravens just signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson, free agent that was let go by the Houston Texans. Hey, how you doing? Joins the Ravens practice squad. So at some point he will be probably elevated to the active roster. And that's where things sit as of October 7th at 2:26 p.m. Eastern time. And I don't know if I saw this, though. And again, to our channel members.
I just texted Kevin. I want to know. I'm not sure.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. And if you guys want to become a channel member, by the way, click that join button. Ribs Good Kids helps support the channel. Ribs Better Kids will give you guys more exclusive access to what we got going on, including our interviews, members-only live streams. We're going to put out, like I said, the Joe Thomas, Michael Brockers videos, and our specialty here on the show is football and baseball. And we've gotten great guests so far. Had Ian Eagle recently on the show as well. And we might be having some other tricks up our sleeve for our Thursday show at 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time. But did we see anything there, Zach? I'm sorry. Did we see anything?
I've not seen anything so far on any Kevin. I just texted Kevin. I was like, were you on? Did your tweet go on McAfee? So maybe he knows.
I think he might be live right now.
Yeah, he's definitely live right now talking about this. Without
Joe Flacco. There's been a lot of stuff that's been going on there, Zach. And honestly, we went a little bit longer because we saw the people pick up. I saw the Bengals fans being like, they're saying a prayer for Joe. with that offensive line. I mean, each team's got weaknesses, Zach. I think what we saw even last night with the Chiefs and Jags, and I've seen it on TV so far, but there really is no favorites. In the AFC, I'll take it back. There are favorites, but there's no dominant team through the 5 weeks of the season. You think that the Chargers have it figured out? Well, the Chargers just dropped 2 straight games. You think the Bills are the team? Well, then you look up and go, the Bills' wins are against a 1-4 Ravens team, a 1-4 Saints team, a 1-4 Dolphins team. Who else did they beat then, Zach?
And then they beat the. You already said
Jets. The winless Jets.
Yeah.
So they're beating who's on their schedule, but then they just lost to the Patriots. So you sit now, you had just a moment of, whoa, are the Bills as good as they think? I think that the Bills are very good, but it just goes to show you the juggernauts. There's some issues. The Eagles lost at home after being up 14 points in the fourth quarter. So, whammy, man. Am I missing anything else on anything that we wanted to touch on?
No, I think that's it for the sports. I did want to, just before we get out of here, just say quick, sad day for Ravens fans with the passing of Captain Defense, Wes Larry Henson. So prayers and thoughts to all of his family, and just what an incredible person. No one has ever said a bad thing about the man. Incredible in the community, all of that. So sad day there for Ravens fans, and just, hope his family and everyone is doing well.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers with his family and Arthur Jones' family as well. It's been a rough week for the Ravens community, and it might have been Pat McAfee. I saw a tweet out from him. But the message of, you never know when your last interaction is going to be with someone.
Yeah.
And so I try to do my best when you have those. If you have a moment to tell someone you care or you love them, don't take that for granted, because you just never know when the last time you could see somebody. But thoughts and prayers with their family, big parts of the Ravens community, obviously. And it's a great point to be made, Zach. So, well, guys, I think that kind of does it. For everything. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe. Ryan Ricken Show. We're live every Monday and Thursday and Sunday, but Monday and Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, where we have our guests lined up that join the show, and we've had a great collection of guests so far this year. And then when there's some breaking news, we'll hop on like this. And now baseball's not completely taking over my life, Zach. We can have more of these moments to break down, discuss, and have more. And then for our channel members, for the Rips Better Kids, a Rip After Dark coming your way this week. So that's where we really just go off the cuff, a little bit more unfiltered, and just talk about really your questions and who knows, maybe some other things that kind of get brought up. So that's all I got, Zach. Any final words?
No, bit weird day in the AFC North. Weird 25 minutes where it was like, oh, Joe Flacco. I'm in the car driving home. Literally had just gotten in the car, and I'm like, oh, Joe Flacco's a Bengal. Awesome. Then you're going, I get home. I'm like, okay. I'm literally making the thumbnail. I'm like, okay, awesome. We're going live. That's like, oh, the Ravens signed CJ Gardner-Johnson. So 2-for-1 special. Appreciate everyone. Hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. And, what a fun time. Just another fun day in the neighborhood.
What a fun time. Bengals fans, congrats getting the one and only, the GOAT, Joe Flacco. Keep him upright. And for Ravens fans, CJ Gardner-Johnson.
It's a sad day.
Newest Baltimore Raven.
It's a sad day. It's a bad day.
Yeah. But Flacco, it still always looks the best in purple. You guys have a day, have a night. Cheers, and we'll talk to you next time here on the channel.